You're listening to the Focused and Fearless podcast. I'm your host, Heather Angel, and I've been helping people tune into what lights them up and increase their personal and professional performance for over a decade. Now I'm best known as a high-performance coach helping entrepreneurs like you cut through the noise and create a business and life on your terms. If you're ready to step out of struggle and discover how simple it can be to create a fulfilling, joyful, and successful business without all the overwhelm and long hours, you're in the right place.
Hey, beautiful. I hope you're well. I hope the week has started well for you. This episode is another encore episode. Now, if you are new to the podcast, welcome. And if you are a regular listener, you may have had the joy of listening to this interview before. And an encore episode is where I bring back incredible interviews with people who are just leading the way in their industry. And this interview is with the amazing, lovely Laura Husson. She's just fab. She's a subconscious transformation specialist. And in this interview, we talk about all things to do with law of attraction, subconscious reprogramming, how our thoughts and beliefs are ingrained at such a young age and how so many of us are basically going through life unconsciously. We're not aware of the way we show up and the way we behave because it's always been that way. And you brave souls, if you're listening to this episode, if you're listening to this podcast, are the ones that are being brave enough to maybe peel back those layers and kind of do a little bit introspection and just think, what do I want in life? How do I want to be? What are the things I want to do? And for many of us, a lot of you are all business owners as well. And it's now more than ever, everything's just changing at such a rapid pace. We're now looking like, well, how do we want to show up in our business? How do we want to serve our clients at the very, very best level? And for that, we need, as business owners, we need to be looking much deeper in ourselves, how we are programmed, what are our money beliefs, what are our beliefs around success, around business, around whether we have to work hard and all that kind of stuff. So this episode, I knew I needed to share it again because over the last couple of weeks for me, I have been doing a lot of deep work I've been journaling. I've had huge shifts in what I'm doing with my life, where I'm planning on taking the business. And it's really exciting, but I'm going to be totally honest, it's kind of freaky as well. And you'll know this, if you've sort of done some of this work before, when you start peeling back those layers, you kind of go, maybe I wish I hadn't hadn't looked. Ignorance is bliss and all that stuff. But it is worth it once you come out the other side, I promise. So if this is new to you, enjoy, take some notes because it is well worth, it's got so much gold in this episode, it's well worth taking notes on it. And if you've listened to it before, what I would say, as I always do if I bring back an episode, is what action did you take? What did you do differently once you listened to this episode? So if you listened before and you're thinking, I didn't actually do anything differently, take the time to listen again, enjoy, and as always, any breakthroughs you have, any feedback, do get in contact with Laura. I'll put her Instagram details in the show notes, and you can always reach out to me on Instagram at Heather Angel Coaching. All right, my darlings, without further ado, let's get into the episode. Welcome, my lovelies, to another interview Focused and Fearless episode, and I am very, 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 very excited about the conversation you are about to listen to because I am with my friend Laura Husson. Welcome to the show, beautiful.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Oh my goodness. Honestly, we are going to dive into so much. And in fact, we were having a conversation before and it was almost like, wow, how many hours have we got to go through all of this? So we are going to do our very best to keep this succinct and not too long for you. But let's dive straight in. For those of you that don't know Laura Husson, I had the pleasure of working with her a few years ago through her amazing Spirit Lounge. And she is a subconscious transformation expert. So Laura, for those that aren't in your world yet, who do you help? How do you help them? Let us know.
Cool. So I am, I'm forever talking about like, who do I help? It's like, I help everyone. I really, the people I get most excited to help are people who are buffering up against a junction of some kind in their lives. And they may not recognize it as a junction. It may just be like, oh, I'm just keep experiencing this same thing over and over. It's like, oh yeah, that's a junction. Like, you're at a decision point. You get to choose what happens from here. And I really love helping people how to work their subconscious to their advantage, because when we understand how to do that, your whole life changes. And that cheesy cliche that we see bandied around on memes all over the web of like, anything is possible, truly becomes real. So in current times, especially, there's never been a bigger opportunity to reflect and expand. And so I'm really here to help people heal their own consciousness so they can go about contributing to their translation and their contribution towards healing the global consciousness.
Love it. And it's so true. And something you said there, which really stuck out to me, is about how people can come across these sort of blocks. What did you call it? A junction? An opportunity, like a junction to sort of change. But how do you find with your clients that you work with, how does that show up to them? How do they realize they're like, oh, hang on, I need Laura? Like, what is happening in their life? What's actually happening in their reality?
Usually they feel stuck in some way. And it might be that they feel stuck in their relationship. It might be that they're stuck in some kind of money drama, or they've hit an income ceiling, or they're just not clear in their vision. So usually when people come to me, they think they want help shifting in one area. And usually what happens, because it is subconscious and we can't really understand, we can't really see the subconscious. It's like trying to see in your blind spot. You can't see in your subconscious without being guided or led there. And so what happens is once they start to be guided and facilitated, they see that actually, oh, I need this thing to shift. But in order for that to happen, it's actually this thing over here that I wasn't even looking at that needs the attention. So usually the symptom is the top level, which is usually some kind of like, oh, if only I could make X amount, everything would be fine. Or if only I could figure out how to work Instagram, everything would be fine. And usually it's something completely unrelated. Like, you know, you need to sort out your nutrition or something completely unrelated. It's really fun.
I'm trying to hold back the laughter because I'm like, oh my God, I've so done that.
Yeah. Me too. I have too.
It's so funny because I think certainly, you know, in the business world, entrepreneurial world, it's so easy. And I absolutely did this when I first started. It's like, if I have more money, or when I have more money, everything will be fixed.
Yes.
That's such a big one that comes up with, you know, many of my clients when they're first starting out. It's just like, all I need to do is, as soon as I get 6 figures, everything will be great. And it's like, and then they get there. Oh, nothing's changed. I just have more money in my account.
Yeah. And sometimes not, you know, like sometimes this is the funniest thing about this whole 6-figure hustle is like, you know, people are on this like thing that when I hit 6 figures, and you see it all over the internet, right? Facebook ads galore, all of the things, how to hit your first 6 figures. And the bottom line is, you know, whatever our subconscious current reality is what we will continue to be. So we can hustle and work really hard to get to that 6 figures. So we can see it on paper and our accountant verifies it and all of the things. That doesn't mean we have it in our bank account, because we can't maintain what we're not at the subconscious level. And so this is why I'm so passionate about helping people in this way.
Yeah. And that, honestly, when you're listening, just rewind a little bit and listen to what Laura just said, because it is absolutely, that is gold. And so how does the subconscious sabotage us achieving your goals? Because I think this is something, again, that we see all the time. And, you know, definitely one of the frustrations I used to have is like, well, I'm doing all the things, I'm ticking all the boxes, I'm taking all the action, I'm living on coffee, what more does the universe want from me? Like, I'm doing the meditations, I'm listening to the audios, like, what, you know? I'm sure I've definitely you know, shouted at podcasts when they said you just need to do the inner work. I'm like, I'm doing it. So yes, that is, you know, it's I've been very honest with my listeners so many times this thing is happening, like, oh my gosh, come on, like, now please. So how is it that our subconscious sabotages us achieving our goals?
I love that question. So, and one of the things that I love talking about the most, and bring me back if I go off on a tangent here, because like you say, there is so much I want to tell you and share with your listeners, but another thing that's bandied around all over the web is this be, do, have model, right? Like, oh, we've all had it wrong. We all think it's have, do, be. It's actually be, do, have. It actually goes deeper than that. before we can be it, we have to actually align our subconscious to the fact that it's okay and it's safe for us to be it. Because the truth is that when we can't out hustle or outperform our subconscious reality. We spend our time, no matter how much we listen to or consume or learn, we spend our time in conscious creation mode, right? It's the obvious choice. It's what we've been taught. It's been what's been modeled by our upbringing. Whoever we were raised with have taught us that we have to use our human mind. And I always use the air quotes when I say this, but like to decide and figure out what we need to do next in order to get to our goal. Like if I can just figure out this one thing, the rest is all going to make sense. And so you weigh up what seems realistic for you to achieve and you go from there. And it's automatic because this is the way we've always done things. And we're programmed to believe that this is the way that we're supposed to do things. So the alternative usually, and I have been so guilty of this for a long time, is that we decide, oh, well, I don't believe in goals anyway. I don't believe in setting goals. I'm just like on a journey and it's all like going to take care of itself because I just put it out to the universe and it's all going to come back to me.
I'm just, sorry, we're on camera, so Laura can see me. I'm literally having to stifle my giggles so I don't interrupt the audio because I'm like, oh my God, I've done that.
Me too. And this is the best thing is that I can hold my hands up to say, the reason I've got here and the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I've been on this freaking journey for years. This is year 12 of my online business. And I will tell you, I have been through iteration after iteration, pivot to try and find my thing, because every time I thought I found my thing, I sabotaged it because I was like, oh, well, as soon as it comes to what do you want? Or like, what's your goals? I would freak out and panic and run away. So when we do that whole thing of like, I'm just going to put it out to the universe and trust where I'm guided, that is usually we're in sabotage, right? The other side to that is that we hustle, we go like all Gary V on it. Sorry, Gary, if you're listening. And we end up, we spend our time in that conscious creation mode because we're like, okay, I've got a goal, or I've got a vision board, and that's a whole other tangent that we can talk about if we have time. And we end up experiencing exhaustion, like mental exhaustion, physical exhaustion, and worst of all, emotional exhaustion, because we have attached so much meaning to what a failure we are because we didn't hit our goals. And so this is a cycle where we begin to see this horrific burnout. You know, it's another thing that's rife in the online entrepreneurial space is people talking about adrenal fatigue. And this is where it comes from. Right? It's not a coincidence that so many people are having this conversation in this space. So the reason that our goals and the role that our subconscious plays with it is really based on three things. And it's largely down, they all come back to your experience so far with goals. So you have a history, we all do, with your progress towards achieving goals. And that history, it's a bit like, you know, when the sensible way, if you went to take a business proposal to a bank for a loan, they would look at what was happening last year to project and forecast what might happen this year. Now, that is very conscious creation. We all know that actually, yes, that's one way it could be. I've seen time and time again that people get to break that rule and create a new reality for themselves. But, and yet, and again, we know everything that comes before but is like, meh, deleted. Our history is stored, like, you know, your brain has stories based on stories of hard, undeniable evidence that you never performed this well against your goals before. You get this far, maybe you get 60% of the way, and then you give up. You're a flake. You don't follow through. And I'm saying all these things. These are things I used to tell myself. And so even when you want the change, like so desperately that you want to scream or throw your laptop out the window, the evidence that your subconscious brain is holding is so stored up to prove that it's not possible for you, that wins out every single time. So you're in a no-win situation. And the beliefs and the content that's in that library are held as cold, hard truth by your subconscious. And we can talk more about like why that's important. And the underpinning of that is that the key directive of your subconscious mind is to preserve the functions of the body, right? So it believes that if we make any change to its current paradigm, its current existence, that it equals probably certain death. So we can't change what we believe. Like, it's important we hold all of this, because this is why you're still breathing and able to listen to this podcast episode. This is what got you here. If we change it, oh my gosh, you won't get to the end of the episode. So it can and will never go against what it holds as true. And so the choice we have to make is, in order to stop sabotaging when it gets to our goals, is that we either have to choose our goals, and we can go more into that, or we choose to hold on to those current beliefs. We can't have both.
Oh my goodness, so much. I mean, I'm just nodding along like there's like a nodding dog here. There's so much that we definitely want to dive into. In fact, I want to go all the way back to what you said right at the beginning about the be, do, have model, because holy moly, it's, you know, I've said to my listeners before, there's so much, you know, the word mindset makes me literally cringe.
Oh, same.
You just see it everywhere. And then, you know, the be, do, have model became like a really big thing, and it kind of made sense. But what you explained there really unpacks for me listening. I'm like, oh, of course, because we can all say, well, I will be this. I mean, my gosh, I've done that with exercise routines and diets and health regimes.
Yeah.
You know, I think everyone listening has, it's like, well, why can I only do that for a little while? I do want to be this person.
Yes.
But actually, we need to take a step further back before we can start doing that. And that's huge. And I'm sure there's so many people listening to this that have been like, oh man, that makes sense.
Why didn't I learn this in school? This is what I've been asking. I'm like, why have I only just learned this recent years? Why didn't I always know this? So my kids, make no mistake, are learning this right now. So
yes, I'm homeschooling my kids officially. So I'm just like, right,
ooh, love it.
First module.
Yeah.
So, and the other area I would love to go down is the word truth. You mentioned that a few times, and how we can, and I definitely, don't worry everyone, we are definitely going to talk about the goal thing, because we need to sort of discuss that. But the word truth, and it's, how do you help your clients find the new truth for them?
Yeah. So typically we avoid the truth, because when we experience the truth, oh gosh, I just did a money workshop yesterday and we were talking about this, and it's one of the most triggering things, right? Like that feeling when you got to like look at your bank account and you really don't want to, I want to throw up, like that kind of triggery, disgusting physical reaction to the truth. And so, especially when it comes to our goals, and this, like you said, this can come down to, you know, okay, I'm going to go to the gym 5 times a week, and I set a schedule and I put my reminders and all the things. The bottom line is, the truth is that you are not being that at the subconscious level. So any behavior that you carry out is temporary, because you just get exhausted. And there's the expectation already in place that, well, I've never achieved it before, so I'm not going to now. So, okay, wow, I'm amazed I've managed to do it like 3 times a week this week. That's enough. We'll have a treat now. We'll just lie in this morning. That's going to be fine. But when we come into really embracing the truth, no matter what, and we're willing to face that fear, and because the fear that we feel is only ever fear of feeling the emotion associated. The fear isn't of like what might actually happen to us. The fear that we feel is like, oh, I don't want to feel gross, so I don't want to do that thing. So if we embrace like, okay, what's going to happen if I do feel that feeling? It's going to feel a bit yucky, and then I'm going to be okay. When we embrace that, and we really claim the now in truth, then we have a foundation to work from. Because the whole time that we're in denial, or the whole time that we're doing a really good job of just like prettying up the truth to suit us, then we can't progress from there, because we're not working on a solid foundation. Everything's shaky. So it's really important that we dive deeply into, okay, this is what has been true for me so far. And this is one of the most beautiful things I love sharing with people. Why is this true? Why is this my reality? Okay, I can deconstruct my lens to understand, as I was raised, I heard stories that blah, blah, blah. I received subliminal messaging just through advertisements or books I was reading or whatever, that this might happen if this was true. Whatever it is, it comes from all kinds of random, unexpected places. When we understand that, what we become to realize is that our subconscious reality and our limits, they're not our fault. Like there's nothing wrong with us and we're not broken on any level. And there's no like, just because we haven't before doesn't mean we can't move forward. It's just that we're beginning now to understand the lens through which we have been seeing everything so far. And once we understand that's just a lens and we get to reconstruct it anytime we want, as many times as we want, that is where truly, like I say, that cliche of everything is possible really becomes like, oh, everything is possible. And that's what's really exciting.
And that's so poignant, because I think, you know, obviously you're talking about that in terms of the subconscious, we're sort of really reprogramming the foundations. I think so many of us are trying to change that lens on the external. And trying to sort of just be like willing it to happen and be like, well, it's fine, I listened to this episode, or I've done, you know, there'll be people that will listen to this go, oh, it's all right, I got it. Like, I'll just think differently. It's like, yeah, let's see how that goes. We've all in there. So I'll just think everything differently. It's all fine. And it is, what you say, I think, is really important about the exhaustion that brings up, because the energy has been funky AF recently, and we're going through such high energy peaks. So like it's very interesting when you are very aware, which a lot of my listeners, you know, very much into personal development and all the great things, you become super aware. But sometimes that's really painful, because you then start going, oh, hang on, I'm thinking the wrong thing, so I'll think something else, and oh, I'm aware of this, I'm aware of that, and you're journaling everything down, and then you get to the end of the day, you're like, God, I'm so tired.
Yes.
You're still trying to do everything consciously.
Yes. And it's like kind of tiptoeing through a field of landmines. You're like, oh, if I do this, that's going to reinforce this. And you don't know what, it can be very overwhelming. And so we really have to bring it back to basics. And the basic is, if we just keep reminding ourselves that the reason my current reality is the way it is because my subconscious doesn't know that when I make a change, I'm not going to die. That's it. Like when we bring it back to that primal basic knowing that's scientifically proven, it's not fluffy woo-woo whatever, it's real. And so if we understand that and we can find ways to reprogram our subconscious in ways that's more supportive to us, we're amazing. We get to use our conscious brain like a GPS. We get to create a goal in our conscious mind that feels exciting. Then the piece that people don't really talk about is the fact that when we reprogram at that deepest level, the subconscious level is the highest level of change. That's where the lasting change comes from. When we change it there, we're changing at the identity level and the purpose level, which is literally like our heartbeat. And there, from there, everything else just falls into place, because your body, which is your doer machine and is the thing that goes and makes your things happen and gets your results, is literally just a robot that responds to the subconscious mind. So if we can program in the reality safely and just ease all of those layers of protection that are in place from going, no, don't let that be true because we don't have a program for that, then everything else gets to fall into place. So there are some important things to be aware of when we talk about that, which is your subconscious always makes everything about you. So if you're talking about something, if you're talking about like, oh, well, oh my gosh, she managed to do that and she's only got blah, blah, and her logo isn't even nice, or her blah, 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 all of that thing. Your subconscious receives all of that about you and it makes all of it true. So it stores it all as truth and all about you personal. So be really mindful with your language around how you're speaking about things. And one of the things that I remember receiving from James Wedmore actually was, thank you for showing me what's possible when I'm triggered. Like, oh my gosh, so-and-so had this amazing launch. Okay, deep breath. Thank you for showing me what's possible. That's been a really important one for me. And your subconscious is also automatically programmed to be forward focused. It wants more. And whatever it has, it's like, great, we love this and we're thriving on this and we want more of that. But we want more of the same typically. So it's not focused on more on a broad sense. It's focused on more on a forward sense. So once we lock in a reality, and we can talk about how we can do that, then we get to it just gets to be easy from there. That's, I love talking about how it gets to be easy. And it's like, once I make one change, everything else just flows from there. And that's why it's so fun.
And I'm sure a lot of ears are pricked up then, like, okay, hang on, we're going to find out how it's easy. Yes, it can be easy. These things don't need to be so difficult. I would love to, I did promise the listeners we would go back to goals, and maybe that's,
yes.
When you're talking about
tuning into, I don't think tuning in was the word you used, but tuning into your reality and, you know, deciding what that wants to look like. Is that how you look at goals now? Like, how do you look at the goals? Because I know you are an amazing entrepreneur. Like, please, everyone listening, please don't think, oh, she just sits around in yoga pants and meditates all day. That is not Laura. Like, she is savvy. She knows what she's doing. So how do you look in your business now at goals?
Yeah.
How you sort of aim towards them?
Okay. So speaking purely with my entrepreneurial hat on, well, I'll speak to how I do it, and then I'll tell you what I see in my clients, because it's two layers. And obviously I used to be where my clients were. So I think probably most of your listeners will be where my clients are rather than where I am now. Yeah. But where I am now is I'm so clear and so tapped into my vision and my purpose and my why that everything I do now, I've got no ego wrapped up in, oh, but what if I fail? All of my goals and all of my vision and all of my everything is outside of me. So I'm not attaching any meaning. When I write up numbers or targets or goals or dreams, I'm not attaching any meaning or shrinking away from, oh, I don't know if that's possible for me. What I'm doing is I'm seeing them and I'm like, wow, this, when I get that result, that is in, you know, that signifies massive impact. This signifies lives changed. This signifies like the growth and the expansion of the vision. So the question I'm always asking now, and anytime I do, because I still come up against those kind of like moments where I'm like, oh, it flickers in and I'm like, okay, just remember what we're doing here isn't about me. It's about being in service to the vision. And I was given the vision, and now it's like, okay, how can I be in service to the vision? So everything goes through my filter of, is this in service to the vision? Is this in alignment with the vision? And if it's not, then it's a no. And if it is, then it's a yes. And then I'm also checking in with, am I limiting the vision? Like, am I allowing my human conscious brain to limit the growth of this message? Because one of the most incredibly important and transformative things that's happened for me is through the facilitation of my own 6-week journey that I have with my groups, is that one of the things that was shared, and I never saw this coming, and this is why we have to take action, because we can think we know, we never know until we're really in it. But one of the things that was shared with me right before we started this second round of the shift sessions, one of the ladies who enrolled shared with me that she had, the night before she enrolled, she had written goodbye letters to her kids. She had been so at the end of her tether, so done, so exhausted, so emotionally depleted that she had nothing left. And she came through the shift sessions. She didn't know why. She didn't really have a logical thing as to why. She wasn't hoping that anything was possible for her. If anything, she was looking to support her belief that nothing would work for her. And she had a shift of the size that now she shared in the group publicly, because that was only with me to begin with. She shared in the group publicly where she was, and that she had literally written those letters to her kids, and that now she burned those letters and she sees a whole new life that's possible for her now. As a result of that, 3 more people reached out and said, I was there too. And that is never something I thought was possible. Wow. If I had allowed my own fears and insecurities to limit the vision and the message, I would never have reached those people. So not only am I talking about life changing now, I know I'm talking about life saving. And that is so much bigger than my own ego and fears and tiny little insecurities. Like my husband always says, zoom out, sit in your deck chair on the moon. Like, you know, your worries about what will they think of me? Like, really, who cares? If you impact one person like that, everything else was worth it. So that's my level.
Yeah, that is, I mean, I've got goosebumps. Like,
yeah,
I was listening to that. I mean, that is powerful. And I think there's
it's
so
big.
many times we can get so caught up in well, I've got to make this, or I just want to be able to post that I've made 6 feet. You know, I see so much struggle going on for stuff that is not even, it's not even actually what people truly want. They're just like, I just feel like I need to, so I can put it on Instagram. It's like, stop.
Yeah, so crazy.
I love the deck chair on the moon. I think that needs to be on a poster somewhere in my house.
Best, isn't it? I know. We're going to make an Instagram graphic of it because it's so cool. And when my husband first used to say that to me years ago, I used to be so annoyed by it. I'd be like, oh, for God's sake, I'm not interested in a deck chair on the moon. I'm right in it right now. Can you not see what I'm feeling?
Oh, bless. Husbands always get the sharp part and the stick, don't they, during launches?
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway.
So that's how you do it. What about your clients that you see?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So my clients, usually there's one of two things going on, and it always comes back to our own insecurities of feeling like, I'm not sure I know what I want. All right. I don't know if I really know. Like, I've got a vision. I don't know if it's the right vision. Can somebody tell me, is this my purpose? I don't know. And when I usually ask people, what is it you want? So often they're like, I'm not really sure. I kind of think I want this. And the reason that we don't know what we want is usually one of two things, sometimes both, is number one, you don't trust yourself to make it happen. Or number two, you don't believe you deserve it. Often both. And when we have those things in place, I mean, both of those bucket down to, I don't feel like I am enough. I don't have enough. I don't know enough. I'm not, skinny enough, tall enough, whatever. There's all these things, especially as women, that we embrace and make our meaning from shielding us from seeing the big work that we're here to do in the world. And so when people have that, this is where it's really down to understanding the reason I feel that way is because my subconscious is protecting the program with all its life. Because again, if I make a change, even though this is uncomfortable right now, this is way more comfortable than not being alive. So I'm just going to keep on believing this thing and keep on keeping forward because we want more of the same. And so that's a bit of a one to navigate around like, okay, I'm really facing the fact that everything's coming from my own insecurities and my am I enoughness. And it usually comes from the fact that maybe you've never made it happen before, right? You have a goal and you're like, okay, this is my goal. Let's stick with the 6 figures thing because we're talking about that. My goal is 6 figures in the year of blah, blah, blah. Either you haven't tried to do that, even if you think you have, you probably didn't, you sabotaged, or worse, and again, I'm doing air quotes because it's like worse, and this is just your meaning that it's worse, you've tried and you failed. But either way, you have hard proof, or your subconscious does, that it's not possible for you. And this is where it's like, like my lady I was talking about, it's like she was at the end of her tether, feeling like she had no other options, and she knows that she signed up to do the shift sessions to prove to herself that she was out of options. So that's one of the reasons that happens. The other thing is, remember, you have these stories and catalogs and libraries of hard evidence that support the beliefs. So it's like, it's not possible. And here's all the reasons why it's not possible. Here's all the times I've tried and it didn't work for me. And it gives the illusion that that belief is 100% true and worse or harder, impossible to change. So we anchor into, well, I'll never be the kind of person that can make 6 figures in a year. Maybe I don't. And then you start to justify, well, I don't really need 6 figures. Maybe I only need, 50,000. Or actually I could work here and it would only be like 25,000. I can make that work. We shrink ourselves to avoid dealing with our enoughness. And that is the bottom line. And the biggest one underpinning that, and this is the last one I want to share on this piece specifically, is that unbeknownst to you, perhaps at this point, you have people around you without their even consenting to it, fully bought into believing what's possible for you too. So everybody around you is cheering you on and celebrating you at your current level and subscribing to, oh yeah, no, you're right. Like that. No, this isn't, yeah, it's all right for them because they've got this, or, oh, it's all right for them because they've got an audience of this many people. You have a solid infrastructure around you supporting the actual lie that your past dictates your future.
Mm-hmm. That is so, so true. I've definitely seen that in my own life. I've seen it in friends, peers. It's just like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so when we know this, really the thing I like to ask my clients, or, the question I'm always asking people is like, we get that. Okay, this is the truth. We're now facing the truth, which is what we were talking about before. And let's just play a game of, if all of this were no longer true, then what would you want? What would you allow yourself to want? Would you allow yourself to set as a goal, and why? And that's where we really start to be, oh yeah, actually, if I could deconstruct or melt away all of those pieces and just allow myself to want what I want just because I want it for no other reason other than I just want it, and I'm allowed to just want it, then what would I want? And then we start to have the truth surface.
That's beautiful. And I think, I'm sure this has been coming up as people are listening. It's like, so is she talking about law of attraction?
Yeah.
Because let's dive into that for a minute, because, for everyone listening, we've had a conversation, Laura and I, a couple of conversations over the last few months actually, because the law of attraction is pretty much the only law anyone seems to know about, for a start. They seem to forget all the other universal laws. So like, let's focus on this one because it's really shiny and people like it.
And it sounds like maybe we'll get our 6 figures from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've totally had my vision board. I've put it up. I've put my pretty pictures and I'm going to manifest that stuff because I've been told that that's how it works. So when we're talking about because this is the other thing that kind of grinds my gears a little bit. You hear people talk about subconscious transformation and then you read it and you're like, no, you're talking about law of attraction, or you're giving me fluff. I'm like, that's not subconscious transformation. So can you sort of speak to that a little bit, how, where you sit when it comes to your perspective of the law of attraction and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, we have layers here. Okay.
Many layers. Strap in, people.
Taking a deep breath. Ready. So where to begin with this? Right. So law of attraction. So where I sit with law of attraction is I love the law of attraction. And I know that I feel like I'm really bashing everybody else in the online space today. And that's not my intention. And if that's what I'm doing, I'm okay with it. Current reality is the law of attraction is extremely exclusive. What I mean by that is that it speaks to people in positions of privilege. And so it's very easy to just lean and default into the law of attraction when you already have a roof over your head and you already have a secure job or a flourishing business, or maybe you have loads of childcare or no kids, or you have all the time in the world. It's very easy to just say, I joked at the beginning, I'm just handing over to the universe, and all kind of airy fairy about it. The bottom line is that is not most people's reality. And most people's reality is that either from the upbringing they've had, the skin that they live in, the background, the experience, the human experience they have had, and the language that then the law of attraction is packaged within, which has made some people a lot of money, let's be real, is really exclusive. Because people there's a very big divide, and this is the piece that I think is missing in this conversation. There is your own responsibility for your own consciousness. And there is also, we do get to create anything. And I know I've said that several times here, anything becomes possible, and it does for you. And we have a responsibility to remember that we are contributing to a global and sometimes on a community level of consciousness. And so while we might do some work on our own consciousness and our own adjustments and our own reprogramming, that might be like a grain of sand in the picture of maybe our community that we represent. And that can be that's something that's carried within you at the subconscious level. So this is why it's important, because while you can heal it for yourself, what that can bring up is a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, a lot of, well, am I going to be outcast? And this, again, your subconscious won't allow you to maintain anything where it feels like you will be outcast by your community. And your community could be your family, it could be your clients, it could be people who have the same beliefs as you, whatever that is. Community, as we know, spans everything. So you will not be able to make a lasting change where there's something deeper in you that, even though you believe it, there's a lingering thing in the background that believes that, oh, if I really go here, people aren't going to like it. Then you won't be able to make a lasting change. And so you'll come back and default to that sabotage that we were talking about. This is especially true with goals. It's especially true if you're going to be a mold breaker. If you're going to be the person that paves the way, that is some big work to do. And so I recently had an experience, and I'm not going to name names. I know we spoke about it, but I recently had an experience with a very well-known teacher of law of attraction, and I paid to attend a 3-day workshop. And I thought, brilliant. They were specifically focusing on the subconscious. And I was like, this is so up my street. This is really going to support me and how I help my clients, and feels really expansive. And when I went in, within 2 hours of the first session, there was a breakout session where we got to ask questions. My dog has just walked in, so I'm hoping he's not going to bark out the window. Disclaimer. We got to ask questions, and this, again, I don't want to identify them, but it was very white, male, typical, like bog standard blueprint, cardboard cutout type profile of panel. And what happened was I asked the question, how do you suggest, because it was portrayed, we just need to keep on picking up our rose tinted glasses and putting them on and looking at the world through our rose tinted glasses and basically blocking out anything that we didn't like, blocking out the things that like took away from our positive outlook on the world. And that was not sitting well with me at all. I was actually really bristled by this. And so I asked the question in the chat, and I can't remember exactly how I worded it now, but I was asking specifically, and it was not to be a protagonist. It was to simply get an answer to the question. How do you suggest going about picking up and putting on the rose tinted glasses whilst maintaining the really needed work of dismantling the racism that exists in our society? And my question was bypassed. And I know that my question was bypassed because you could see all the questions in the chat and all of the other questions were answered. And the fact that that was brushed under the table was extremely, hold on.
This is real life, people. This is just real life podcasting. It was either going to be one of my kids or a dog. And it's just real life podcast recording.
Sorry.
Quite all right.
He always does that because that window looks out over a bunch of dogs he's scared of. So
that's right. As I said, real life.
So yeah, it was, I forgot where I was. Yeah, the question was bypassed.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
that's and in itself, just to even,
yeah,
you know, even if you're just not going to just be messy and honest, even, but don't
exactly
bypass the question.
Exactly. So what happened then was it went a layer deeper because I asked the question again and I checked with an admin, did you receive my question? And the admin replied, yeah, we've got your question saved. I was like, okay, great. So I came back, I went off because I didn't want to listen to any more of it. And the main presenter came on, this high profile person, and tried to kind of address it. I guess somewhere somebody had said, oh, somebody said racism, like we should address this. And so he kind of stumbled over it and it was really messy. And then he just dropped it and went, okay, back to the content. And I was like, oh, I get it. And I understand. And I was I was able to hold in a place of like, okay, be graceful. You know, we're all working this out right now. Nobody has the answers yet. Just be patient. And so I came off and I went back for the other 2 Q&A sessions where they still continued to answer all the other questions and they still didn't address mine. So I came off. The policy on this was really black and white. There are no refunds, right? There are no refunds on attendance. And I emailed it in and it also said, you know, support is within this time frame. And I was way out of that time frame of when support was on. And I just emailed in. I said, look, I understand this is a no refund policy. However, and I explained what had just happened. My question was bypassed. I would still love an answer to this question. And I would really appreciate if you would refund my my ticket, my enrollment fee, because this is really uncomfortable for me. And until this is addressed, I just don't feel like I can access the content or be in support of it. Within 20 minutes, I received a full refund with no questions asked and an email just saying, thank you for your feedback. And so, so I emailed back again and I was like, this is not okay. You know, like right. Thank you for acknowledging my request and for dealing with my email outside of hours. And I would still really, really love to have this conversation and to get the answer to the question. And I posted the question again and I've never had a reply. So for me, immediately, this is like, okay, I get it. We don't all know. And yes, you have decades of content that you've been the face for saying, this is the law of attraction. And you just put your rose tinted glasses on and away you go. And that's not enough anymore. And so it's about understanding how do we, you know, those of us who want to make change, how do we make change? And how do we make change that is accessible and inclusive to all humans, no matter what their experience, and who perhaps don't have the privilege to pick up a pair of rose-tinted glasses right now because their reality is anything but rose-colored.
Yeah.
So that's where I sit with Law of Attraction right now. And that experience really harnessed it. And like I said, I love the Law of Attraction. What's important to understand is it doesn't exist in and of itself. It's not like a magic spell that you just say, oh, okay, I'm putting it out to the universe and I'm just law of attractioning this 6 figures in my business. So actually there's work to do here. And in order to do that work, all of us have the responsibility to really disentangle and dismantle the lens through which we have been living our lives, viewing the world, making meanings, and then reestablishing, okay, who am I here to be? Who do I desire to be? And actually, I am the kind of person that has the resources to go and get support to do this and be this change.
It's so true, because I think it's such an important conversation to be having, because this has always been a bit of a sticking point for me. You know, even just going all the way back to what I suppose kicked it off for the mainstream is the secret. You know, pretty much you've got a load of white people in their big houses going, oh, I created a vision board, and ta-da! I'm like, I'm pretty sure there was probably some other steps. Like, I'm not like knocking the secret, because I know it does get a bit of a bad rap now, but it did at least open the conversation to people. But I've always thought, well, you know, my ex-husband used to work out in Afghanistan and things like that, and I would talk to him about this stuff, and he's like, yeah, you tell that to the kids living in what they're living in right now. You try telling that to you. And I'm like, yeah, good point, actually. I'm sat here in my nice house in England, all very, very safe, and have all my little luxuries. What about the rest of the world? Because apparently this is universal. Wish and it's all fine. So it's, and you know, and to the other, you know, exactly what we're going through at the moment with the Black Lives Matter movement, there are people in our Western society who don't have anywhere near just being able to walk out their house feeling safe. And they're supposed to just, oh, we'll put your rose tinted glasses on.
It's
what?
It's not only triggering, it's extremely harmful to be having that conversation. And this is why, for me, it wasn't about the money, right? It wasn't about like, oh, I want my money back. It was, I don't want to be supporting this movement. And I, as you know, I sent an email out to my email list, sharing it and sharing screenshots of those emails with the name blocked out, because I want people to know I don't stand for that and I don't support it. And there is a way to show up for your own work, because this is the other thing. There's a lot of people now like, oh, well, I should feel guilty about the progress I'm making. No, you don't need to feel guilty. You're still allowed to grow and evolve and understand how to play a part in being an inclusive member of society. Now, I'm not sat over here pretending I have all the answers, because I certainly don't. I'm on my own learning journey as far as that goes, and as far as all the things go. But what I do know is that I'm committed to always be learning and always be doing the work to check in. What do I need to shift here? What needs realigning? How do I get to show up? When we show up from fear of being judged or fear of anything, that's not helpful. It's not helpful to anyone. So it's about really coming back to, okay, yes, I'm allowed to set big goals. It's okay for me to have success and achieve my goals and always set bigger ones, and be doing the work to see how can I help on a more inclusive basis at the same time.
I think that's a really important point to make, because I think when it really kicked off and, you know, everyone sort of did their black square on Instagram, and then you saw everyone just go, okay, well, I've done that. That's lovely. And I'm like, But, you know, like, you might want to read a book at least, or like start somewhere to go on, like you said, go on that learning journey. Because, you know, I've done a whole episode on the anti-racism piece, and it was messy, and I'm like, I'm not there. Like, I'm still trying to work out how I can play my part with my company, with how I show up and how I work in, you know, to be doing things better. And I think what's sad is that, you know, you're talking about a big brand, and the world needs to change. We have got to make these changes, and it needs to be for humanity, not white privileged humanity. Actual humanity, not little pockets that's convenient and that can, you know, come on the webinars.
Totally. I totally agree. And this is why this work of actually allowing ourselves to realign to bigger goals is so important. And I was having this conversation with some of my friends in the US, and from all backgrounds, and one of them came on, and one of the her partner came on, and he is a Black American male, and he just absolutely like lit an inspiration spark in me, because he was saying exactly what I was just saying about, I don't need you to shrink. He's like, what I need you to do is use your privilege to leverage all. And this is where like equity comes in, right? It's like, I love that graphic where it's like, it's not just about giving everyone a box. It's about giving people the different size boxes so they can all see over the fence depending on what height they are. Right? Beautiful example. And it really helped me to see, because I was questioning my work. I was like, oh, have I been doing this? Am I just bandying around the internet, sprinkling glitter and not really caring about other people's experiences? And thankfully, somehow I was like, inspired to go and sign up for that experience that really grounded me in, no, that's not where I'm at. And I know that when I expand my vision and when I really be the example of what's possible, and I do this work at the same time, that's where we all have the opportunity to rise and expand together. And so there's no need for us to keep ourselves little because we haven't done that work. It's about, how can I be all of it and be okay with being on the journey?
Yeah, love that. It's such, I'm really pleased we had that conversation, because it would have been very easy for us to just do an episode of like, hey, it's all amazing. Yes. If you just go back to the level before the B and, fix everything's amazing.
Yeah.
But, it is about, I love how you've just been really honest about like speaking to the reality that you're in. And you, even at the beginning, about being like, seeing your truth of what the situation is now and going, okay, where do we go?
Yes.
Where do I want to go? Let's get the foundations right. And I think what's really heartwarming for me is that anyone listening to this, because I know, because I've done it myself, there'll be people listening to this going, okay, but for me,
yes,
this is my situation. But I've got this situation. Well, I've got 3 kids, or I'm a single mom, or blah, 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 blah. I can't make these changes. And actually, we all can. It's all possible.
Yeah.
But I love I don't know whether we talked about this before we hit record or after, but about the conscious, the collective conscious, as well as just ourselves. And it is so possible. So I do hope, if you're listening and you're like, yeah, it all sounds good. But
do you
work out what's on the other side of that but, because it
totally
is possible.
And I would say, especially if you're listening and you're saying, yeah, but it's not possible for me, because, this is especially when you need to lean into this work, because this is where, I've been down that path where I've literally been the single parent with no income and not knowing how to do what. And so this is when it's especially important, because we come in, right, especially when we talk about money and goals and all those things, we impart that on our like legacy is like passed down. We come into this life with money tension and stories around what we're allowed to have and what's okay in our like lineage. And so, and this is in our consciousness. It's just absorbed by our consciousness. And what's important is that when we argue for those like limitations and I've got this and I've got that, that's where we get to stay. So it's important that, especially if you're coming up against resistance, it's okay that you have resistance. There's no judgment for that. But this is where it's like, oh, okay, there's resistance here. I'm going to pay attention to that. What small thing could I do? Just understanding the truth and understanding where your current focus comes from is the start. Mm-hmm. And the important thing that we didn't touch on, and I do want to just mention, is that to make a change at the subconscious level, it's not like flicking a switch. It doesn't go from disbelief to belief. You only have to, it's like a gauge. And so when you start repetition, right? That's the thing. Master the repetition, even if you don't believe it to begin with. This is where affirmations, while they sound woo-woo and they do sound like I'm putting it out to the universe, they really, really work. What most people do with affirmations is they stop practicing them before they've done their job. So what happens is your subconscious loves repetition, because the more it hears it, the more it goes, maybe, maybe. And the gauge starts to move. You only need to get to 51% of believing it's possible before the scales tip and the reality shifts. So if you are listening to this and you're like, okay, well, how do I start? Start by just programming in an affirmation, and you can pick no more than 3 things. Keep them forward focused, base them in gratitude, and speak them as though they're already done. So, and if it's like too much of a stretch to say, I am the person who has the 6-figure business, you can say, I am becoming the person who has the 6-figure business, and have it everywhere. Have reminders in your phone. Tell people to just text you randomly that whenever they think of you, and have it flash up unexpectedly. The more you see that, the more your subconscious starts to consider it, realizes that when you consider it, you don't die. And then eventually you hit that 51% and it accepts it as truth. And from there, everything follows, because again, the body's a robot to the subconscious mind. So you don't have to do anything. You have to listen to this, maybe listen to it again, and then just start to work with, okay, what do I want to be true? How could I play with this? A really easy way is to just choose one thing, 3 affirmations at most, all around it, and then just have them everywhere, really, truly everywhere. Most people bin the affirmations before they reach the 51% tipping point, and that's why they think they don't work. So affirmations do work because your subconscious loves repetition so much.
And I think what's really important to hear is maximum of 3, and also say them even though you don't feel like you believe them.
Yeah.
Because that is, that's the biggest sticking point I used to have with affirmations. I was like, okay, I'm looking in the mirror, I'm doing all things. I also used to have like a page of the flipping things. It would take me ages, because I was like, the more the better, more the better. Yeah. So, but it is very hard because your brain goes, no. Yeah. So you just do need to absolutely, one of my favorite ones from Get Rich Lucky Bitch is, I am what a wealthy woman looks like.
Yeah.
Totally took my pressure off doing my hair every day. I was like, yeah, I can be a wealthy woman in slacks and a hair up. It's all good.
Yes, totally. And I think it's probably important to go back to those but like objections, to say, even if you don't believe it, like we're saying, that's especially when you do it. So pick 3 things, and you just can write like, it gets to be different now. That's a great one, right? I get to change my reality. Even if it's only 1%, a 1% change in your reality has such a huge ripple effect. So allow that to happen. Just play with it, because as soon as you get one experience where you're like, oh my gosh, something actually changed, you become addicted to this game.
It is a game. It really, really is.
It is.
My gosh, there are so many things we could dive into.
I know. I'm like, we have a whole series here.
I know, we're like, might have to have the Laura Husson episode part 2. Because what I just want to finish up on is, subconscious transformation is your specialist area. So how do you suggest people listening to this who are like, yep, I want that, like, how do they take that next step? Like, how can they find you? How can they take that step to actually start really making the changes, especially if they've tried the bead you have for like money, and they're like, I'm still not being the person I want to be?
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, the affirmations are great. And if you want to connect with me, you can come connect with me on Instagram. That's my favorite place. I do lots of stories. The grid is coming into shape now because I've got help with it, because that's not my area of expertise. And I'm sharing so much to help people who are just beginning on this path. And then one of the other things that I really love and is really underrated as well is hypnosis. And so, oh gosh, I love it so much. And so I've created a free hypnosis, which you can get if you go to totallylaura.com/power. You can download a free hypnosis, and it's all about turning fear into personal power. And so I made it at the beginning of the pandemic, before I even knew where we were headed with that. But it's not about the pandemic. It's about any time where we have that fear of like, I don't know if it's possible for me. I don't know if I can make change. But, right? Anytime you have that, you listen to this, there's instructions with it. There's an explanation that talks about how hypnosis works. It's not something, there's a lot of myths about hypnosis. You can't get stuck in hypnosis. I don't have any intention of persuading you to quack like a duck when somebody says your name. And it's really important for your conscious mind to hear that when you see that kind of stage hypnosis, that people have been pre-selected for their automatic, like their personality preference to be an extrovert. They want to entertain. So I use hypnosis daily for myself. My kids listen to hypnosis. My clients listen to hypnosis all the time, and they love it. They're like, could you make one on this? Could you make one on that? And the way that it works is that it eases, you have this like critical faculty in your brain that's stopping. It's like the doorman to the subconscious. And it's like, no, we're not letting anything in here because we know what will happen if we do. Hypnosis eases that critical faculty. It's almost like telling the doorman to go and take a nap. It's like, I've got this. You go and take a nap. We're like, okay, good. He's gone now. And then we start to offer positive suggestions to help move you towards that 51% of possibility. And so you can listen to it with your eyes open and just listen to check that you feel like it's in alignment for you. And then you just follow the instructions. And it's really beautiful. It creates, I think it's about 15 minutes long, creates a lovely break in your day. And the results that people are getting from it are incredible. So definitely grab the free hypnosis. And yeah, if you want to learn more or talk to me, or I'd love you, if you've listened to the episode, I'd love you to tag me with your thoughts on Instagram. I'm at Totally Laura over there. And I think that's the best places.
I mean, absolutely do go and get that hypnosis track. Hypnosis has completely transformed loads of things in my life. I'm absolutely addicted to it. It's so cool. It's like, there's a block. I'll find some hypnosis.
Yes, it's the best.
Yeah, it's so good. Laura, this has been the most beautiful conversation. As I said, we could have gone on for probably another hour. But thank you so much for coming on the show. And please do, everyone, I know you're going to be getting a lot out of this episode, so please do tag Laura, go to her Instagram, because there is some amazing content on there as well. So thank you so much, my love. It has been beautiful.
Thank you for having me. It's been gorgeous to have this conversation.
Thank you for listening to the Focused and Fearless podcast. If you'd like to continue the conversation or have a question that you would like answered in an upcoming episode, head over to Instagram and connect with me at Heather Angel Coaching. If you enjoy this podcast, please share your thoughts in a review on iTunes. I truly value your feedback and I take the time to read every single review. Have a beautiful week, and I'll see you in the next episode.